much to Eric and Hai for inviting me as well. So I come from a diverse background. I first studied in pharmacology and I went into finance, and then I worked at J&J, and now I'm in the AI startup. So that's quite a ride, and we're quite a young company ourselves. And I just heard a few moments ago that AI Thinker, the event is very young as well. Started last summer, if that's correct. So now it's amazing to see how much it has grown already. So thank you so much for having me tonight. So I work for RunPod. Basically, we are a GPU cloud provider, right? So sourcing the need of a diversity of individual. It can range from AI, research. It can be 3D rendering. It can be molecular dynamics. A bunch of different use cases. Tonight, let's focus on AI specifically for you guys. So I wanted to make this presentation as much interactive as possible. So I do invite you to scan this QR code and put a thumbs up on the hub that come out when you're done. So I will know you are ready to proceed. So basically, I have a few questions for you guys to make that interesting. And we'll uncover what's important for this specific audience. And that way I could perhaps tackle it more effectively. So already a bunch of participants. Are we at 11, 9? 12. So at any given point, if you're not connected and you need to, at the top of the page, there's a website with a code. You can connect through that as well if you're not ready. We are already past 20, so I will start. So my first question is actually, do you or your organization, do you use cloud resources? It can be GPU or CPU. So that's the first test, kind of an easy one for you guys tonight to start with. I do assume there's a couple of people at least present that do use those resources. So far, very overwhelming, yes, 80%. So we do have other people that do not use that, but let's try to tackle this tonight. So the other thing, in one word, what is your top concern when thinking about cloud GPU? You can input more than one. There's in the app, you can input 5 if you wish to. So that way we'll see it appear on the screen. So we have cost is probably one of the most important one, right? If we don't have the resource to spin up GPU, that's gonna be a concern. So we have expensive, we have performance, we have skill issue, we have privacy as well. That's a big one, right? Security, availability, scalability is also something that appears on the board. So there's, I see a bunch of other words. So we see there's a diverse, set of challenges that are associated with running GPU online. It's not just a matter of having them or even accessing them. So basically, at RunPod, I would like to know, So next page, I would like to know, in order, in the app, I would like you to classify in order of priority which challenge is the most important to you, and also to the last that's the less important to you. You can reorder one by swiping those up and then send the result in, so we will all be able to see what are the 1 or 2 or 3 concern or challenge you face when renting resource online. And hopefully I will customize this presentation to your needs. So when you're done, let's put the thumbs up. We have the first, the first result in. So percentage of fee associated with idle GPU, that's also related to cost. So how much of the time you're running a program, for example, during the night, you might not have as much users, so you want to minimize, that cost. There's also extended retention and usage of customer data by provider. How secure is my data? 30 years from now, is my data still going to live somewhere on the web and for people to access? The third one is cold start delay. With what OpenAI has set as expectation for everybody else there is most clients, they expect a near instance response in terms of cold start time. They send a request and they expect now to receive a response pretty fast. So most platforms out there, and especially VM, they can take up to 20 minutes to spin up. So that's quite a big challenge if you're trying to minimize idle GPU costs, like I mentioned earlier as well. You need to spin up and down instance, but if it takes too long, that's quite a challenge. So now that I know a little bit better, I wanted to go over, one example of what we do at RunPod. We have kind of two different services. The first one is just renting your classical GPU on demand. It can be a A100, a A6000, it can be a 4090s, and any other sort of GPU. The second services is really tailored to inference. So let me provide you an example. All you have to do is send some requests to an API link, and you can host anything that you want. It can be, we use Docker container specifically, so it can be any AI model or workload that you wish to run. And then you send those requests to this provided API link, and we'll scale up and down the number of GPU you're renting based on your need, and you never pay more for what you need, never more, right? You pay per second, and that's it. So as an example, right now I have a Llama 13B, right? And I can send requests to that API. And all of this interface is something you can see yourself when you're using the platform, right? So there's a testing environment as well. So let's say I send a bunch of requests. I refresh the page. And now you can see literally the output of those. And the delay time, that's the kind of performance you can expect on the platform. So, that way you minimize really the fee associated with idle GPU without sacrificing that cold start time performance that clients are so, attached to. So that's one of the way you can use RunPod. The other thing is that was mentioned is data security and data retention. We are in the process of getting SOC 2 compliance, so very, state-of-the-art security. And also something we're working on and we provide to clients is in those agreements, one of the biggest concerns with using most platforms is actually what are they going to do with my data? Are they going to leverage that and transfer it to some partners? Are they going to do marketing with that? How long is it going to get stored? So on RunPod, we don't store, we don't process, we don't leverage your data. If you are to delete your account tomorrow, your data is gone. That's as simple as that. And we want to try to provide that through agreement and SLA as well. So that's the way we do things. In terms of the other service that I mentioned, again, we use Docker containers. So you're free to either bring your own one, it can be anything, or use one of the templates we do provide. For example, let's say two 4090s, right? I can deploy, I select again a template, it can be PyTorch, and then a couple of clicks like that, I'm already started, okay? So it's a very easy and fresh experience, and right away, you have access to the log, and soon you will be able to connect. So it's a very easy way to provide your needs in terms of GPU without breaking the banks. I don't know if you paid attention to the price per hour, but that's part of our mission, to democratize access to those resources as well. So, for example, A100 is as low as $2 per hour. So that's quite a big contrast with the major platform out there. Now, in one click, again, you can start a terminal in your browser and start working. Or even a one click, a Jupyter Lab access, and kind of like GCP or other platform, you can start working as well right away. So see, for example, right now, I selected two 4090, and those are ready for me to start working, okay? You don't need those resources anymore. You can either pause the rental. So now you only pay for storage. And if you don't need the storage anymore, you can easily delete it altogether. And everything is gone, and you're back at square one. So a very fresh experience for a developer, and especially a startup for the serverless platform as well. Like when you start out, it's very challenging to find the funds, so wasting it 24/7 on some GPU can be quite costly. So even if you don't send any requests on RunPod, you don't pay, right? You pay per usage, as simple as that. So that we are also a very big incubator for startup and people that are looking really to start out. So there's already 12 minutes past. So I would like to tackle a little bit more about the other priorities as well. So we mentioned cold start time previously, right? Which is probably the biggest blocker to a custom autoscaler or you know, even deploying resource on a bunch of other platforms. Let's say on RunPod, even if I have 0 GPU base, I can put a minimum in a maximum amount of worker. Let's say in this case, 0 as minimum, and a maximum as 30. That means that if I don't send any requests, I'm not renting a single GPU, you know. What about this call start time? What if I send some requests and, you know, I have some customer at the end of the line that's waiting for some result? So let me wait a little bit for the GPU to scale down. So now there's barely any GPU online. Let me refresh the page. And let's send some requests, you know, from 0 GPU. Let's say I'm scaling my service. Some clients are sending some requests to my website. Let's send a couple requests. So now let me refresh the page. I go on the request tab. See, that's the kind of delay you can expect. I had 0 GPU online. So 1 second execution time, 0.02 second delay, and that was a Llama 13B LLM, okay? So that's the kind of technology we came up with. It's really to minimize, let you eliminate fee associated with idle GPU without sacrificing that cold start time, okay? So that's really the space we specialize in, and we are able to help most startups. And by the way, do you have any questions so far about what I've just presented? Yeah?
What exact type of job is executed? Cloud function?
So we do provide you with a specific worker template that you can either build your own Docker container with, right? So in terms of job, it's not really limited to any AI model yourself. You could even go as far as designing your own worker template that's even, you know, rendering 3D, you know, does 3D rendering. It doesn't have specifically to be an AI model. And you know, there's a queue. When you send some requests, it sends this into a queue, and you're able to personalize the queue behavior. In terms of scaling up, you know, you have the choice of either scaling up based on a queue delay. So meaning, how long does my request needs to wait in queue before a GPU starts working on it? Right? The other way of scaling up is based on request count, okay? So that way, for example, if I send 10 requests, I will assign, for example, 5 GPU. And the way it scales down is based on the idle timeout time. So the goal, again, is to eliminate costs associated with idle GPU. So that really lets you personalize exactly that price per performance ratio you're looking for. And as well, you're able to select what GPU model as well. So let's say I have some stable diffusion, and then I'm really looking for the cheapest available, you know, GPU. The execution time doesn't matter as much, but perhaps you would want the flexibility to select a 16 gig GPU, which will fit your model and will let you, you know, deploy. So in terms of how the requests are handled, we do have a handler script that you can personalize yourself. And you're able to determine how it scales up and down. Did I answer your question correctly? Or? Okay. Thank you.
Do you expose your services as API?
Yeah, so basically you do have the, everything you have seen me do today, and I did see how easy it is to spin up instance and resource, but everything I've done today, from modifying this specific endpoint, or to spin up the GPU, you can do it through API calls. Every single thing you see on the website can be managed through API call. There's almost no exception to it. So you can run specific GPU, you can create some API endpoint just like this one. And by the way, you can create an API key like this one that could let you, manage that endpoint even further through other services. So everything is customizable, and even though we try to keep things as fresh and simple as we can, we are a developer-centric platform, so we do keep in mind that developer needs some flexibility around that. So yes, everything is callable through API. Yep.
Is there like a priority for the different jobs? I mean,
Yes, of course. So you are able to create more than one endpoint yourself. So that's the first thing. So you could potentially create one per AI model or per service and assign, different, personalization, customization, like what I mentioned. In terms of the priority inside the same queue, that's something we are currently working on, but that we don't have. So the requests are processed one after another. A feature that we are working on is be able to add a flag to each request so they can go differently, and the one with the highest priority are processed right away. So that's something you can expect, I would say, in the next 6 weeks or so. Thank you. I did see a hand there. Yeah?
Yeah, I was curious about the templates that you have for the type of models you can run out of the box. I was curious if you, because I thought I saw Llama 13B, so do you have already other models, open source models, that I can just deploy right away?
Yeah, so we do provide you with a Docker container template that you can build, and it can really be with any AI model. That's really the focus on the platform, is really deploying anything you want, okay? In terms of what's already done, already available in one click, we do provide you a diversity of template, like we have Whisper, Stable Diffusion XL, and other LLM as well. So there's a bunch of different ones that are accessible in one-click deploy. So you have an AI endpoint that you can call right away. But I would say the most popular feature is really deploying your own one. So having the flexibility to pick whatever model out there, and also bring over your own fine-tuned version. That's also important as well. Most business, they have their own model that they need to customize and deploy into production. So I would say that's the most popular choice.
So support of private Docker repositories.
That's a very good one. In terms of private Docker registry, that's something we do offer. So when you go into settings and check, we are compatible with private Docker registry. So especially if you have a private model or have a business that don't necessarily want to have their model public, well, that's also an option that's available. Speaking of enterprise or business use, we also have a team feature like this one. So you are able to collaborate with some of your teammates or colleagues on a bunch of different projects. Let's say this one, for example, you can attribute some role, and perhaps you don't want your billing person, for example, even at university, having access to your world production, right? So you're able to select some role like that, and we have also a audit log feature that looks like something like this right now. So we are able to see each member and whatever action they took on the account. And so you have clarity on each one, and you know what happened exactly with all the members you have in your team. So the other feature that is available, we do have a secret feature. So for example, if you want to store some specific data, and you want your team member to have access to it, but you might not want to provide access to that specific value to be able to copy paste it and save it, right? So we are compatible with secrets, and either inside your instance or your instance template, you are able to use those values and assign some names to them. So that way you can use them securely without sharing them as well. So that's another feature we have done. So right now, in terms of product roadmap, we have planned quite a few things where we are not married with NVIDIA as well, meaning that we are going to bring over AMD compatibility quite soon, which is quite big for the open source community, especially the new MI300, that has been shown to be quite powerful. So we are working on that compatibility as well. So that's one of the big things that's coming up. We did launch very recently CPU instance as well. So that's another one that we brought to life. In terms of the feature roadmap, we also have distributed network storage, meaning if you want to have some resource connected to several GPU server, and you don't want to download those every time, for example, from S3 or Azure or any other clouds out there, you can store those in a network storage and which is connected between 20 gig up to 200 gig per second to your GPU server. So that's an environment that's really very fast accessible for your GPU. The other thing is it's pretty cheap as well. It's between 5 cents to 7 cents per gigabyte per month. So even if you have 1 terabyte of data, that's really not going to break the bank as well. In terms of pricing, like I already shared with you, it looks like something like this. So even for H100, you can pay, you pay per second on RunPod, but still, these are the price displayed per hour. If you are like for LLM, one of the cheapest option out there is the 48 gig of VRAM A40 or A6000. Those GPU are 70 cents, 79 cents per hour. So you have access to quite a beefy GPU for a very affordable price. Do you have any other question tonight? Yeah? Yeah. Yeah, that's a very good point. I would say it does change based on how heavy is the AI model. Obviously, if you try to spin up a Falcon 180B, that's not the same challenge as spinning, a very small model like Stable Diffusion. For any reasonable size model, up to even 13B, that's around 26 gig, of VRAM needed. Anything lower than that, especially, image generation, audio generation, those are really not too bad. And you can expect lower than 1 to 2 second cold start time on RunPod with those. That's really the reason behind that is really how we address that challenge is we pre-cache all of your workers with your Docker container, like from the get-go. So you don't never have to wait for download time for your Docker container. It's always cache, okay? The second thing is all we can do to prepare your AI model to be cached into VRAM. It's all of these steps and optimization that we implemented to make it as fast as possible. Because if we would be to provide you with a model that's already loaded into VRAM, that GPU cannot do anything else. So obviously, platform out there charge you when that happens. So it's really all the steps prior to that are optimized, okay? So we are able, and that feature is called Flash Boot, and it's kind of one of the one we are the most proud about, okay? So, yeah.
Are these hosted available in Canada?
Yes, we do have that data center directly available in Canada. We even have some hosts tonight that, we have two platforms. We have a secure cloud, which is all shared to data center. But, we come from the community as a platform, so it's very important to us to give back to it. And we have a community cloud also platform, which even cheaper price that you're able to run some GPU from members of the community. And there are some of those us here tonight.
That's right.
So, that's the really mentality behind our platform. We are pretty young. We are not AWS or Microsoft, obviously, yet. We are much closer to that size. Yep.
Yeah, a question. In our company, we run a lot of summarization tasks with ChatGPT, and just like maybe you did comparison. So if we use, for instance, your platform with some model, comparing to like ChatGPT, would be nice to maybe as a marketing strategy would be nice to like have this comparison. Hey, switch to us and you will save this amount of money. And just a question: did you do this comparison?
Yeah, I can discuss a little bit about that. That's a very good question. Thank you, by the way. So the first thing is really, what flexibility do I have in terms of the model I'm deploying? With OpenAI, obviously, you're with OpenAI. What if you want your own fine-tuned version? What if the model, is not provided by OpenAI? Most token-based, platform, you're kind of need to use the model they provide. What if you have your own one? So that's the first difference. The second thing is really customization. In terms of, let's say I don't care at all even about cold start time or anything, but I want the cheapest option possible. Well, OpenAI is not the cheapest option out there. So that's quite challenging to accomplish through them. And on the same time, let's say you want the world's best performance, like on the planet. Perhaps you want to use some H100 SXM GPU, right? So you do want that flexibility. So that's kind of the other thing that differentiates RunPod really is you're able to pick really what price per performance threshold is the most tailored to your specific needs, okay? So you accomplish that through choosing exactly what GPU model you would like, but also personalizing the other metrics like I mentioned before. If you don't care as much for the queue delay and your customer don't mind waiting up to 30 seconds for having their request process, perhaps then you can input it and you will save tremendously in terms of cost, okay? So you're able to personalize really the infrastructure to your exact need. On the other hand, if I want something very fast and my customer are not very tolerant in terms of delay, perhaps I want to put that really low. It will cost me more though. But at least you remain that choice to personalize the infrastructure you would like. So that's the biggest probably difference. And also custom model, like I said. That's quite a challenging and non-trivial thing to do, to deploy your own model, but still minimize costs associated with idle GPU. The last thing I was going to say is, most platforms, one of the biggest challenges, especially for AI startup, they will provide obviously some credit, but when those are gone, most likely one of the only way to save on cost is committing for a certain duration to those GPU. It can be 1 month, 6 months, 1 year. But one of the biggest comment I receive regarding that is most developers they don't know in 6 months or even 3 months what GPU model they will require. Is they're going to have a new AI model that come out, a new stable diffusion that require more VRAM. They don't want to commit to a specific model, which is one of their biggest challenge because at the same time they would like some discount, right? On the serverless plan, well, first, the mentality as RunPod is really on demand, so you don't have to commit to anything. But even if you would like to and save on some money, all of our serverless plan, you're not locked to a specific GPU model, okay? You still remain, even if you commit to a certain amount of money per month, you can still retain that flexibility to switch beside every GPU model, okay? So that's another big plus. And I will end my presentation on that. Like I was saying, we're not a multi-billion dollars company yet. So all of those features that you have seen today have been developed based on customer feedback, right? So we are really close to our customer, and any feedback that they have, we actually actionize on them to make the platform better and build from it, right? So that's really our philosophy and where what we want to be as a company, right? I do have a 1 minute left. Is there any other question tonight? Thank you so much.